So yesterday I went to see Sinners in the movie theater, and for me personally, it was one of the best movies I've seen ever. Like, it's like up until like 45 minutes of the movie, I really loved every second of it because it was just such a deep dive into Black culture and Black history. And in general, like just also other things that they depicted, like the Americans at the beginning of the movie. Is that a spoiler? It's in the first 5 minutes. I don't know if that counts as a spoiler. Is it in the first 5 minutes? Well, it's in the very beginning of the movie. Doesn't matter. I'll talk about spoilers eventually, possibly, but I'll give an extra spoiler warning if I do. The way they depicted everybody and everybody coming together and how things played out, I always loved like team heists type of stuff. And even though Sinners isn't a heist movie, I like that they collected their crew at the beginning. Once they hit the vampire plot line, like once that became a thing, I kind of liked it less. But everything played into a much deeper thing, which is the symbolism behind the movie. And what I believe is the best part of the symbolism in the movie is that everybody's talking about the symbolism in the movie. But before we get into it, my name is Mr. Third Person, the Internet Substitute, and yeah. So if you like this video, please like and subscribe and leave a comment down below. This video will be about expression and feeling and people's emotions. If you've seen this movie, please write a comment how it made you feel. Just how it made you feel. I'm open to any sort of interpretation, but only if you've actually seen the movie. I'm sorry, I'm going to gatekeep a little bit. If you've seen the movie, please write how you felt in the comments. And until then, peace. Everybody's talking about what the movie depicts, what it's showing, what this stands for, what that means. Why did this character make that decision? Why did they do this that way? Blah, 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 back and forth. And this is what I love about art in general. I am a very big fan of humanity. I am a very big fan of connecting and togetherness and people just being something as one and as a whole. You could very well connect that to one of the themes of the movie. But for me, I don't want everybody to be the same, but I want everybody to be together, if that makes sense. And this movie has gotten so many people together to just talk about what it means and what it stands for because it depicts so many different types of people. And I feel like art, the whole point behind art, and movies are art, film is art. The whole point of art is expression and connection. You express yourself so that others can connect to you. And if you express the status and the symbol of so many different people, you'll have that many more people that can connect to what you're making. They can understand it. And now me personally, with having a African-American history, I felt so connected to the main characters of the movie and to the people within the movie, how they acted, how they talked to each other, what they did, what their intentions were, all these different things and different plots. But at the same time, I know there are a lot of Asian people who probably watch the movie, Chinese specifically, Chinese American. It's a very American movie without going full on Americana. Like, it's definitely not patriotic whatsoever. Not whatsoever. It shows nothing of America and being proud of American, but it definitely shows American history for minorities. And if you are a Chinese American or an Asian American who has a history, like a lineage in America, you 100% felt somehow connected to that. If you were Native American, you felt connected in some way. Irish felt connected in some way. Even white people watching the movie, which I know the most negative comments and negative feedbacks I've seen from the movie were from white people, but I also at the same time believe they didn't necessarily watch the movie in the first place and they just automatically assumed they went with this whole woke hive mind virus, which isn't the people that are woke, but instead the people that are against the woke shit, because that's not like a real thing. The same way like being canceled, it's not real. Those people just automatically assumed this movie was going to be super racist against white people, which it wasn't. The movie was about race. It was not about racism. It was a lot more like I said, humanity. It's a lot more about it's so hard to have race topics in America and not include racism, but it really isn't. It's an American historic film. Where was I at? Where can I come back to this and attach? It's a very accurate depiction of just different races in America in general. And this isn't even what I'm trying to talk about with this. The symbolism behind each race and how they act in the movie is so accurate to how it happens in real life. And it's not even like people are trying to spin it in different ways and trying to make certain races to be out to be the bad guys and stuff. The only true bad guys of the movie, like truly bad, and I'm not talking about good and evil because obviously vampires are directly connected to evil. The truly bad guys in this movie are KKK members. That's the only true, and of course, obviously there's going to be white people, but they don't inherently depict white people as automatically being KKK members. Like, there are moments where there's the assumption, because like the same like anything, you won't know if a white person is a KKK member just by looking at them because they're white. That's derogatory, that's prejudice. It's not true. The same way how as white people, when they look at black people, they're not automatically gangsters or whatever the fuck, right? It's not automatically these things. But the way they're depicted is just race relations. And what am I trying to say right now? I wanted to talk about the symbolism of the movie. People talking about the symbolism of the movie. This This is what art is supposed to do. Art is supposed to get you talking about it and expressing your own connection to the movie and how you interpreted it. And there are so many different interpretations. I went to see with my girlfriend, and after coming out of the movie, we spent like an hour, even more now if you just add on what we were texting. We spent an hour after the movie walking around the park just talking about the movie and how we understood certain moments. Now, of course, I understood certain moments differently than she did because I, being half African American, having hit that history, I understood and interpreted certain situations more directly to the culture. But she's African, and her being connected to her culture and her history, she also saw certain things that you could only see having that mindset, having that sort of connection to a different culture. Now, all cultures somewhere connect. There are always similarities because at the end of the day, it's cliche, we are all human beings. Human beings are beings of pattern. Nature is a cycle of pattern. We do what we do because it's ingrained in us. So all cultures share some sort of similarity somewhere. There are no two cultures that are complete opposites. It doesn't exist. Alone, food is part of every culture. That's automatic. For example, within the movie, this isn't necessarily a spoiler, but at some point they talk about buying catfish to serve catfish. Catfish is a very typically southern fish to serve. Fried catfish, very specific. My girlfriend as an African, she probably doesn't know that, but she still they have their own dishes and stuff that are specific to their culture automatically. That's like that with every culture. So everybody can understand if you have just the size of interpretation skills. When he says we need catfish and I forgot what the other food was, they think, oh, why catfish? Oh, probably that's what they eat. That's probably like their thing. And then it is. Now at the same time, there are a lot of people that have interpretations that are completely off. But at the same time, something that I learned when it comes to interpretation in school is that it doesn't make sense to give grades to interpretations. It doesn't make sense because every interpretation is true. Automatically, that is how you see something. If you see something this way and you understood it that way, it is true. Now, of course, the original creator can be like, well, it's supposed to mean this and this and this, but that's not the point of art. Like I said, the point of art is expression and connection, and however you connect to something is true to yourself, true to you as a human being. So if you interpret a certain scene in the movie and I read that and I go, why is this person so stupid? When in reality, that's just how they see it. And I love that because it's also an exchange. Now, of course, interpretation skills are something that you can work on, but that person just may be lacking in certain interpretation skills. So this is a moment where you could be like, hey, like I can see where you're coming from, but you didn't take this into account, or this aspect also runs in that, and then you just connect the dots for them and then they'll get to it. And it was the same for me. I was on Twitter, and the amount of interpretation that I saw on Twitter of people just expressing what they saw about certain parts of the movie, and so many aspects and concepts that her and I just didn't get while watching the movie, but at the same time not finding a single one that matches what we interpreted from the movie. It's amazing. It shows what the human mind is capable of and how different paths of life just bring you to these different mindsets and different ways of thinking, to where these are the things that you see and how you read. Emotion is a language. Everybody speaks their own language of emotion. It's much deeper than regional. Like there's American English, there's British English, which even British English is broken down into Wales English, London accent, Gaelic, all this different stuff. But when it comes to emotional language, it's in the smallest knit spaces of your family or whoever you spend your time around. That is where your emotional language comes from. And everybody speaks a different emotional language, which is why they understand something differently, because all this is an expression of emotion. The movie itself is an expression of emotion. It's Ryan Coogler expressing his emotions towards the Black history and the Black South and everything that was going on in the movie. He used vampires, of course, to help depict this, because that's also just a part of somebody else's emotion. Vampires also came from somebody else's emotions about demons and the dark and the night and fear. Everything comes from that, and that is what connects everybody at the same time. And that's something that makes this movie even more pivotal and even deeper, is that he used two forms of emotion. He used the movie as an avenue of expression, but he also within the movie used music as an avenue for expression. Music was a deep part. There's a scene in the movie, spoiler warning, there's a scene in the movie where Duke Silver, one of the older Black gentlemen within the movie, played by Delroy Lindo, they were in the car and he was explaining, he asked the driver, Michael B. Jordan, was it Stack? I think it was Stack driving. He asked Stack to slow down when they saw a bunch of prisoners working on like mining or whatever. And he went, and I didn't really understand what he said, but I think he said like heads up or something like that, like just to keep them motivated, like show that that's not where they belong, like they can do higher, be better, you know? And then they drive off, and dude in the back, Sammy, asked if he knew them, and he goes, yeah, I knew all of them. I spent time in jail. And then he tells a story about one of his friends from his past that had gotten accused of something by the white man and was lynched on the spot, even though it wasn't true. While telling this story, Delroy Lindo gets emotional about it to the point where he can't speak anymore, so he starts humming and beating the side of the car. And while doing this, Sammy in the back starts playing. That is the purest, most rawest form of emotion that I have seen in a movie ever. And I mean that 100% truthfully. I teared up while watching that. I tried really hard not to break down crying because my girl was next to me. I had to do all of that, right? So I couldn't go full out on it, but I was tearing up hard because not only is that everybody should be able to attach to that expression, but just knowing my family history and knowing that there were situations like that within my family history, that hit me on a deeper level. And that is something that everybody, like I said, everybody should be able to connect to that. And that is, while watching this movie, you can easily drop the outside world and just feel what they're feeling. And I don't know if it's true that everybody should be capable of this. Not everybody is, but you should be, because you see the humanity within the situation. If you're watching that and you don't feel something, there's something going on with you. There's something you need to work on. You need to open up your mind, open up your circle, meet more people, just learn how to express yourself. There's something very deeply human about moments like that, which I know it's centered in grief and sadness and despair, but those are also just emotions. And expressing these emotions is how people connect to each other. And that was another very, very meaningful scene within the movie, was when Sammy was playing and they connected it to different generations of music. Now, my girlfriend and I, we both agreed that it kind of takes you out of the movie because it pulls you so deep within the setting. And that is the first moment where I'd say, even past the vampire by the beginning, that's the first moment where it says it pulls you, like it reminds you, oh, this is a fantasy. Not this is a fantasy, this has fantasy aspects. That was the first moment that pulls you into that, because they started showing different generations playing music together with Sammy in the South. And this whole time they built up the movie with this setting, so you're so deep in it. Once it pulls you out of the setting, you're like, and then it's somewhat awkward, but then you get pulled into this new setting and you see him connecting all the different cultures and the different music. And I was watching it and I was like, okay, this is cool, because they started showing, like, the first thing they showed was a black guitar player from the 70s on an electric guitar strumming, and it sounded really cool with the music. And then they started showing more and more different people, but there was mainly just black cultures, until at some point, because there are Asians as well, there's a Chinese couple that are help working in the club that they've created. At some point it shows them and it zooms out and you see an Asian dancer dancing the music. Bro, the connection so far apart, but so easily brought together through these forms of expression, just being human and showing how you feel, and other people absorbing how you feel and being able to express themselves at the same time. If you don't enjoy these moments, if you don't feel these moments, you are blocking yourself off from a human connection. You are blocking yourself off from being able to express yourself and just being able to, because you need to be able to. Oh, dude, Bill Burr, crazy segue. Bill Burr, I don't even remember how it goes. I think he was on a talk show, but he says that the reason why white dudes die at 40 from a heart attack is because they hold in all this aggression, all this emotion, because they can't say that a puppy is cute. And that's what it is. If you hold this all in, it just eats away at you and buries at you. And at some point, like, you need to let it out. Now, unfortunately, this expression, once it builds up and it festers, at some point it gets brought out in a form of violence, unfortunately, because that's what it's infuriating. All this feeling, you need to let it out, like physically, you need to let it out. And how do you do that? Crying is really hard to do at some point. If you're told your whole life, like, you can't cry or you shouldn't be crying, or you try to hide crying, like I just said, I myself, I wasn't trying to cry in the movie theater because that's just what I was, formed and molded as a person. But if you can't ever do that, I was at least able to put a little tear. Imagine somebody watching that, feeling all the emotions to the point where they should be crying and just straight faced. That's all still in there. They still feel something, but not being able to express that is extremely unhealthy for your spirit. And that's kind of the main plot of the movie. Not say the main plot of the movie, but the main story arc for one of the main characters, Sammy. He just wanted to be able to express himself freely. And that's where he saw his freedom. And that's why at the end of the movie, big spoiler warning for the end of the movie, at the end of the movie, he's talking to Stack as an old man. And he's saying that on that night, playing his guitar is when he felt the most free. Just being able to express himself, expressing yourself. And that's why he had such a resentment. He didn't have such a resentment. Why he was very hesitant when it came to his father being a preacher. His dad wanted to put away the music and join the church, but that's also not true freedom, because the church doesn't let you express yourself. It lets you, church and religion, it's suggested expression. It's telling you how you should be feeling at this moment so that you can hide from how you're actually feeling. That may sound harsh, but it's the truth. And that's not necessarily a negative thing. A lot of people are going through like crazy shit. That's why a lot of people turn to religion when like a family member dies, or if they get a sickness or something, they turn to that because they just, all this emotion is so extreme. They need somebody to help guide them throughout those emotions. And that's what religion does. Sammy didn't need this. He didn't need help guiding through his emotions. He already had an outlet for his emotions that was trying to be taken away from by several people. His dad didn't want him to play the guitar because he wanted him to be part of the church. Smoke didn't want him playing guitar because they didn't want him being part of the club lifestyle. Somebody else, I forgot who it was, also wanted him to put down the guitar. But at the end of the movie, he decided, no, this is, and him driving away while holding the guitar neck on his chest was so meaningful because that was how he chose to continue expressing himself. That is how he chose to live his life and continue to be free. And that's why at the end of the movie, he was still happily playing his guitar in that club, being free. He was still with his music, with his expression, living out his emotion. And that is the main plot of the movie, blues music. Blues music is the purest form of expression. And just like most things that were born from Black struggles and just Black creativity, it was taken by other cultures, specifically white culture, and turned into things like rock and roll, which we have blues to thank for everything. Now, of course, the evolution of it into these different directions of music, they were all stolen per se, but they weren't stolen because it's art. Art is meant to be absorbed and expressed. These people, they absorbed blues music and they expressed it in their own way. And you see this at some point during the movie, another spoiler warning, these three white people, well, it's not three white, it's two white people and one Irishman. I'm going to speak about them as if it was 1930s because they didn't consider Irish people white, they were Irish. It was two white people and an Irishman, and they played their version of blues, and it was folks music, so it was more upbeat and happy and like joyful because that's what they could be. They could afford to make music like that. They didn't have blues to talk about that in that sense, right? Now, of course, the stolen part comes from the industry, like because white people would take blues music, make their own version, and then not allow Black artists to play in certain revenues. No, what's the word I'm looking for? Venues. They took blues music, made it their own, and then they performed it in certain venues that didn't allow Black people to play their music. Now, of course, the history behind that is horrible, but the history behind the music itself is always something beautiful. That's just the main driver of the movie is expression and the blues music and togetherness and coming together. And that's exactly what this movie has achieved in real life as well. Well, now, of course, in the movie, the way it ended, I didn't like the way it ended. Honestly, I didn't like that everybody died and was killed and all this stuff, but like I said, at some point you need to be reminded that it is a fantasy to a certain extent. It may depict these real life things and these real life struggles and real life history, but at the end of the day, it's still a movie. But within the movie, there's that moment of togetherness and bring people together through music, bringing people together through one person's expression of emotion. Everybody else absorbs that expression and they create their own emotion through dance. Everybody's dancing. That's also an expression of emotion. It's just letting it out. And that's what this movie is doing. Everybody watching it and talking about it, their symbolism, their interpretations, their love for it, their hate for it, anything, is all expressing how they feel about the movie, and everybody's sharing it and everybody's coming together. If somebody loves something and somebody else hates something, that something is still here. It's still here. That is a point of connection between these two people. This is where the issues come in. There's three entities. There's this person, there's that person, and then there's something. When this person loves this something and this person hates this something, that doesn't automatically mean that this person also hates this person. Your like or dislike of something, and I'm talking about stuff. I'm talking about actual stuff. I'm not talking about concepts. Like if you like racism, what the weirdo? Like it's okay to not like somebody. That's different. I'm not talking about that. Blues music. I like blues music. I really like blues music. If somebody else dislikes blues music, I don't dislike that person. That's just something that they don't like. Why would that bother me? Why does that affect me? And at the same time, everybody's about this type of person, a type of person that needs you to like the thing that they like. That is not what the point is. Everybody's their own person. Now, of course, that doesn't mean like you shouldn't try to force yourself to be around people that don't like the stuff you like. I mean, you just aren't compatible in that sense. But you shouldn't dislike that person just because they like something. I mean, like I said, conceptually, if there's something that they like that is, problematic or whatever, sure, have your own way. But when it comes to the thing itself, I'm gonna use this movie as a direct example. If somebody watches the movie and they say they didn't like the movie, I don't dislike that person. Why would I dislike that person? That just means that they absorbed it, interpreted it differently, and it didn't have that emotional connection to them. But guess what? We both still saw the movie. I can talk to them about the movie, why they didn't like the movie, and I don't need to convince them that they should be liking the movie because this is how I interpreted it, because it's how I interpreted it, and they interpreted it their way. The same way they shouldn't try to get me to dislike it. We don't need to share our fondness of stuff. That's not a prerequisite for human connection. We don't need to like the same things. We don't. And this movie is showing that. Now, of course, there are a lot of people that are rage baiting. They're saying like, by the way, Nebenpunkt, if you haven't consumed something, this goes for anything. If you haven't seen the movie, if you haven't heard the song, if you haven't played the game, if you haven't ate the food, your opinion is invalid. That's just what it is. If you have not experienced it, you cannot afford the opinion on it. Now, you can afford a disinterest. You can say, yeah, okay, I saw the trailer, movie doesn't interest me. You cannot say you didn't like the movie. You cannot say it's a bad movie. You can't. That doesn't work that way. You can't say you dislike food if you haven't tried the food. Even when it comes to food, if there's a smell, you don't like the smell of that food. Okay, maybe it tastes differently than it smells. You don't know until you tried it. If you see the trailer for this movie, okay, I don't like vampire movies. Okay, your opinion on the movie is invalid. If you say, I don't like vampire movies, so Sinners is a bad movie, I haven't seen it, I just know it's a vampire movie and I don't like vampire movies, so it's a bad movie, your opinion's invalid. You can't speak on the subject. Everybody can speak on every subject. I take that back. Everybody can speak on every subject. You cannot give your opinion on the subject. You just can't. And I'm not making the rules. I'm just saying how it should be. And now, a lot of people not liking it because they just don't have the cultural connection. Okay, then you don't have the cultural connection. That's not your thing. Sure, go watch something that you do have a cultural connection with. And maybe I also have somehow a cultural connection to that. It could be. Sure. Why are we looking for ways to disagree? I don't get so many people. The internet has made it so easy to disagree with people and has made it fun for people to disagree with people. Why? The fuck? When in history were people purposely trying to disagree with each other? Now, I mean, of course, like during racism and shit, of course, white people and black people didn't want to agree on certain stuff. Okay, sure. I mean, in general, if you sit down a white person and a black person in the 30s and be like, hey, you like beer? White person, yeah. Black person, you like beer? Yeah. What? That would be like, even if the person does like beer, the one person will be like, no, only because the other person said he does like it. What's going on? Because it's become so easy. People have such a personal connection to their own opinions that they automatically see somebody disliking it as an insult to their person. Are you crazy? Dude, everybody's crazy. Why? Why is somebody else's dislike of something that you like insulting to you? Huh? Even if they insult the thing. If somebody's reading a book and you go, hey, I've read that book too. I didn't like the book. It's a dumb book. That doesn't mean you're dumb for reading the book. That just means the book you're reading was interpreted as dumb to that person. Maybe you like it. Maybe it's what you enjoy. Dude, why? And of course, people, like, it's also how people express it. If somebody goes, hey, that book is dumb and you're dumb for reading it, they're insulting you. But like when they point you out, just, dude, people being insulted by other people's dislike about something. Now that's more understandable than somebody feeling insulted by somebody's like of something. If somebody likes this movie and somebody dislikes it because that person likes it, what is your problem, dude? What? How long have I been recording for? It says 2 minutes, but I think it's just bugging. I hope it's just bugged. We'll see. Sorry I didn't do a deep dive into the movie, because if I would, this video would be extremely long, and I'm not trying to make that long form of content yet. But let me know in the comments if you'd like to see me do a deep dive into this movie. Then maybe I will, just all the different scenes, my interpretation of the movie. Maybe that would be interesting too for other people to hear that. But I don't know, dude. Yeah, like I said at the beginning, please comment how you felt about this movie or how you felt watching it. I want to know your feelings. I don't want to know your thoughts, like your opinions. I want to know your feelings. How did you feel while watching this movie? What did it make you feel inside? If that's good or bad or positive, or just talk about how it made you feel. I want to know how you felt about this movie, because I personally, like I said, I felt very emotional during a lot of the scenes. Once the vampire stuff happening, I felt a little less emotional. It was a little more like, oh, okay, yeah, sure. I think I just fell in love so much with the beginning of the movie that part was like, I don't really need this. Like, I don't really need the vampire stuff. Just continue with these characters and these plot lines and stuff. But at the same time, the vampire thing was kind of necessary to continue the plot. So, let me know how did the movie make you feel. Let me know down in the comments. And until next time, peace out. What should I do at the end of the video? Oh man, I'm not gonna have me digging in my ear like that. That's not what I'm gonna do. Which, I wasn't digging in my ear, I was digging into the canal. I mean, you can't see because of the dreadlocks, but the canal is here. My finger was here. Make sure the hair is sitting, because look at this. What is this? Oh, my camera's mirrored. What is this? Lay your ass down. Where are you trying to be at? Is it still up there? I can feel him trying to fight. Is he still? I can feel him trying to fight. I need him more. Why is this side so much poofier than it? Or is it because I'm just looking that way? I don't know.